Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now, let the stories begin. Oh boy, is today going to be, I'm so excited to introduce you to this guest because as we were just getting online and starting to talk, she just drops a story and I'm like, oh, no. You can't even tell me yet. I want to get ready to push record. So everybody, I can't wait to hear an amazing story that I don't even know about yet. But from this beautiful woman who, I always like to give you a little background on how maybe I met somebody. And we met a couple years ago at an incredible event that a lot of you have heard me talk about, Empowering a Billion Women. And so Regeanie Corona, welcome, beautiful woman, to this show.
Oh, thank you so much, Holly. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited, and I couldn't even believe you just were getting ready. We were just talking as we were starting, and we were just talking about parents because I just spent some time with my father, and fortunately both my parents are still alive, but they're at that place now. And so Regeanie was telling me that she's lost both of her parents, which proceeded to go into a story that I'm going to hold on for a moment, because what I want you all to know about this incredible woman is that, and you'll soon learn this, but she has taken her life and really committed it to following God's nudge, the Holy Spirit's movement through her, and truly listening to what is my soul's highest calling. And it hasn't come easy. It has been, we have something in common. We were both been there, being single mothers and getting ready to leave full-time secure jobs, thinking we're crazy. So I'm going to hold on that, because tell us what you're passionate about right now, my dear friend. And then let's go into the backstory. Okay.
I finally discovered that I am passionate about helping others find and walk in their purpose. And it is my life's calling, and I do everything that I can to help support that. And I realized it took so long for me to truly even know what my purpose was. I thought I had discovered it years ago. I had a talent for working on computers and working in the IT field, and I was good at it and I loved it. And naturally, I thought that was my purpose. I thought, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm going to have the greatest impact. And God had something totally different planned for my life. And
yes, sir.
I had a 25-year IT career, and I literally started from the bottom up. And someone gave me an opportunity to prove myself, and I was just really motivated to just keep learning more and more and more. And there was literally no stopping me. I would take computers apart. Everything in the IT field, I think almost everything that you could do, I've done. I've done network administration. I've done database administration. I've done design work. I've created applications, business applications. And the last 8 years in my IT career, I was in charge of cybersecurity for Los Angeles County, the operational side of that, which was a huge responsibility. But I loved it, and I was good at it.
Well, and having that kind of a length of a career in that, and having a niche and doing something, which a lot of people that listen to this show, right, are in the corporate world. So,
Yes.
and maybe they're men and women, they're in it, they've been leaders, they've worked their way up, but there's still that nudge inside the soul, of, yes, I haven't done my highest calling yet. What is that purpose? And so tell us about, in kind of a quick summary, give us the update of the pivotal moment for you when you were ready to leave. You're like, I gotta go, and I can't believe I'm doing this. Right?
Yeah, I literally went to an IT conference, and I was in my hotel room. I had just recently gone through a separation, and my life was already going through a transition. I had moved out of my home with my husband at the time. I had 2 very young children. They were 3 and 5 at the time. And just as we were talking, I literally felt that I heard the Spirit of God speaking to me in this hotel room saying, it's time for you to leave your job and start your next. And I thought I was going to just fall out at that moment because
You're like, no,
I thought,
no.
no, my next is in this career, right? You wouldn't have given me this, God, and then tell me that I had to leave it. And so it was a very pivotal moment for me because, to be honest, Holly, I fought it. I fought it for probably a good year. But, as God does, he continues to gently nudge you. And he nudged and he reminded me every day. And I finally came to a point where I surrendered and I said, okay, Lord, whatever you would have for me, whatever you want to do with my life, I'm going to surrender to that wherever that takes me. And
you did it.
So I left my IT career not knowing. God said, I literally heard him say, go back and read the book of Exodus and look at Abraham. And I took him out of what he knew, and he didn't know where he was going. And I'm going to do the same to you. And this is the building of your faith.
Oh. And the heart, and this is what I want people to hear. This wasn't an easy leap of faith because single with 2 children and exactly almost the same ages as mine when I became single, and listening to that nudge and knowing that we're hearing it, you've got to trust. That's truly the leap of faith. And you did it. And I would love for you to tell us, because what I want people to hear about is that not only did you take the leap, you listened, you went on to really create this amazing business of helping people find their purpose. But what I'm most blown away is the nonprofit, Advancing the Seed. Tell me about that, my love, because that's another big leap of faith, right?
It is. It's a huge leap of faith. I'm very cognizant of that voice inside. And I literally woke up one day and wrote the Advancing the Seed. And I didn't know what it meant. I heard it from inside. I wrote it down. And subsequent weeks, I started to get revelation on what it meant, and that literally God was calling me to start this nonprofit. And the focus of the nonprofit, really at the heart of it, it's about reducing poverty. And so our mission in that effort is to build up strong leaders for business and community so that they can learn to do well for themselves, do well for their families, and then do well for their communities and the global world. And it has been a huge leap of faith. And I treated it as a business, which a nonprofit is, but coming from an entrepreneurial background as well, I invested, my current husband and I invested money, seed money, and we said we're going to just trust and believe that this is what we are called to do, and that we are going to have impact in the world. And we have been doing, literally, Holly, I have to tell you this.
Tell me.
Our nonprofit was approved in 24 hours. I tell that story. Yes. I tell that story and no one can believe it. And literally, I submitted the paper or the application online in one day, and the very next day it was approved. And that's when I knew that was my confirmation that this was a God calling. This was definitely, I heard right. I knew that this was something that was meant to happen. And I've just been walking in that faith ever since.
Oh, and look at the lives. So when you think about, okay, that just gave me goosies because in 24 hours. So you want to talk about getting confirmation and affirmation that you are on the right path. What more do people need, right? When things are really aligned, it just begins to happen in ways you can't even physically, have controlled. So tell us about, I'd love to hear, I had no idea we were going to go here, but about like a few or one or two of your most proud, success moments with this nonprofit. What have you seen? What lives have you been able to enrich or empower? What comes to mind?
So I don't know how many people are aware of this, but in the United States alone, we have roughly 5.8 million young adults, ages 16 to 24, that are considered disconnected. And what that really means is they are not employed, they are not engaged in education in any form or fashion, and they're just living life and just barely making it, just barely living life. And that is one of the demographics that we serve. And we have worked with at this point, we've worked with over 100 young adults that would be considered disconnected youth. Wow. And that's been in the past 18 months. And we've been able to bring financial education and literacy to them. We've been able to coach them. We've been able to connect them to opportunities in the workforce. We've been able to expose them to entrepreneurship. And I think what really grabs me, what really puts a smile on my face and in my heart is when I see the aha moment, when I see the light bulb go on that, yes, I have an opportunity to do something beyond my current circumstances in the way I may be defining myself or may have been defined up until this point. That is the reward for me, because I know that I'm helping to make a difference in another individual's life.
Oh, okay. You just gave us some statistics. I literally had no idea. I mean, you just informed me 5.8 million young people. And when you think about 16 to 24 years old, and I have never heard the term disconnected. I really like the way you just articulated that, because that was kind of an aha, like, wow, what are we doing? So how are you? So in 18 months, close to 1,000 young people disconnected, you've been able to give them financial literacy, get them basically, I'm going to use the word reconnected. How is this happening? What's going on? How are you doing this? You have business leaders that are helping do this? Do you have mentors? Tell us more about this if people want to get involved and help support you.
Absolutely. So yes, again, taking the entrepreneurship perspective, when we started to build the nonprofit, strategic alliances were very important for us. So currently in the banking world, for example, a lot of individuals don't know this, but banks have something called a Community Reinvestment Act obligations. So within their bank, they are reinvesting in communities, and oftentimes workforce and development is important for them as a goal, as well as financial literacy and other things within the community. And so we have aligned with a number of banks who are helping to support us. They will come in, they will provide anything from financial support to in-kind support to coming in and actually volunteering their time and helping us to deliver the content to those who are receiving our services. And we love those partnerships. They've turned out to be very, very good partnerships for us. We have private sector partnerships as well. I'm very, very big on combining public and private sectors and creating those partnerships to help solve some of the common goals that we have in our communities. We also partner with other youth programs, because we can't deliver all the services that are needed to help youth that are in that demographic. But we are sort of a wraparound enrichment program. So right now we have a strong partnership with the California Conservation Corps, which is run by the state. And we're coming in and delivering leadership development and financial education and other components of coaching and mentoring and education that enriches what the Conservation Corps is already doing. And those partnerships are really important for us, because we're able to help them, they're able to help us, and it's been amazing. It's really been amazing.
Well, and I'm just sitting here listening to you thinking, I'm going to make an immediate introduction to you, to someone that I feel so blessed. Daniel Horgan, you can listen to his show. He was a guest on my show. He is passionate about youth, and the work he's doing is aligning nonprofits with the public sector. You guys have so many synergies, and and he is and he lives in New York. You're in LA. I think he's in that area quite a bit, but I'm going to make an introduction. Look at me. I'm doing the show and I'm already telling you.
That.
Yeah, you two need to meet immediately. But you know what's interesting? Tell us, okay, so how are you creating the awareness for the disconnected young people? How are they finding out about you if they want to seek this help?
So generally it's through the programs, the youth programs that they are already connected to, and we're connecting to those youth programs. But we're also starting to launch events and workshops. So we have an event coming up in October on the 7th, and it's a full day, a Saturday, where it's called the Activate Purpose Summit. And we are literally bringing a cast of amazing people together who will be pouring into those that are attending and imparting knowledge and strategy and connecting them to influencers. And so part of that, we are a social enterprise nonprofit. So we're selling tickets to those who can afford to be there, but we are also scholarshiping tickets to those that are recipients of our services so that they can be in the room and so that they can be exposed to the same types of knowledge and people that those of us who pay to go to these amazing conferences, right? I know, Holly, you do it, I do it, so that we can grow and develop in personally as well as in business. And so one of the things that we are passionate about, I'm passionate about, is making those opportunities available to young people who may not necessarily get them otherwise, because those opportunities were given to me, and I am a product of that. I am an example of what can happen when you open up those resources and opportunities to a young person that may be growing up in a situation that is not ideal. I had great parents, and I was spoiled to death. I didn't know that we were poor growing up. My parents gave me everything, especially my dad. But I grew up in Compton, California, and there was a lot of negativity, especially in the media. You saw a lot of things, but it was real. There was gang activity, there was drug activity, and there were a lot of things that I was exposed to at a young age. But I was also exposed to mentorship and programs and opportunities where people showed me that I could be anything that I wanted to be. I just had to reach out and grab it. But if it wasn't there and made available to me, I often wonder what would have happened, what direction would I have taken, because I would have only seen that which was around me. But mentors and programs through organizations allowed me to see the possibility. And I was just talking to someone recently. I remember in 1984, I was a senior in high school, and I was the ASB treasurer, and I was afforded the opportunity to sit on the 1984 Olympics Committee. I was the youth advisor for the Olympics Committee, and it was an amazing opportunity, Holly. And that expanded my horizons so much, because it showed me that there's so much more outside of what I can visibly see. Now I can dream, and I can have hope about what I can do and where I can be and who I can be and how I can influence in the world in my life. And
love this. And you know what I love the most is that I just was smiling when you said, I was raised, I had no idea we were poor. I just had an amazing life, right? Amazing that you had the gift of having parents that in the midst of seeing crime, right? And all of that in the area you lived in. But although you were exposed to it, you were exposed to all of these other opportunities.
Yes.
Was there one, really top of mind, was there one pivotal moment in your younger years that really you can look back and say, wow, that had the biggest impact on me, that I can look, maybe it was, and maybe it wasn't such a lovely pivotal moment, but it was one that really made you go, this is who I'm going to never be or always be for the rest of my life?
So it's interesting that you should ask that question. And this is a part of me that I don't share very often, but the Lord has been putting on my heart that there are things in my story that other people can hear and maybe see in their own story, especially young people. So at one point, my parents had me in a private school, and I think we reached a point where it was very difficult for them to afford to keep me there. And I could recognize that. So I gave them all the reasons why it was okay to take me out. I didn't want to see them continue to work so hard to keep me there. Well, when I transitioned into public school, I was really trying to fit in, Holly, and I didn't know how to fit in because I grew up in an inner city, but my parents sheltered me. And so there were so many young people that were involved in gangs. And, I have to be honest, I sort of teetered in that direction, and I thought it made me cool. And, there were people that started to like me and talk to me. And I kid you not, Holly, I was around the corner from my house one day, and I was dressed a certain way. And there was a car that drove by, and it was filled with gang members. And they looked at me, and I was with two other individuals. And I was only about 13 or 14 at the time, so I was very young. And I made a gesture, and it caused this car to turn around and come back. And I will never forget this as long as I live. I was shot at that moment. Yes.
What?
So they pulled out a gun and they started shooting. And I remember running and hiding and praying, Lord, if you save me, I will never do anything like this again.
I had no idea.
Yes. And I was protected and I was preserved because God had something greater for my life. And at the time, I was too dumb to realize it. But it didn't take very long for me. From that moment forward, everything in my life changed. It was a pivotal moment at a very young age because it could have been a very different outcome, Holly.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But I was preserved to be able to influence and have impact at a later point in my life, which I couldn't even begin to foresee at that time. But I immediately went home, and my parents, who are no longer with us, never knew this story. They never knew this happened. But I went home and I took everything that I had that even gave an inkling of an idea that I was related or that I was associated with gang activity. I took it and I put it in a bag and I threw it in the trash can. And I'm sure that my parents recognized that something changed, but they never asked. They never said a word. And from that moment forward, I continued to focus on school. I became a straight A student. Wow. I changed the way that I dressed. I changed the way that I behaved. I became a completely different person literally in 24 hours.
I am literally just sitting here with tears because I had no idea. God's grace.
Yes.
I love the word preserved. You were preserved because he needed you and he had big, big, big plans for you.
Yes.
And you didn't miss the moment of changing the whole trajectory of your life because you saw, I go this way or I go this way, right?
Yes.
And to know you and to meet you, who would have ever imagined that as a younger person, you being in a gang, you being around that and exposed to it. And were you miraculously saved from did you even get slightly hurt from the gunshots? Did everybody survive?
Everyone survived. And my guess is they may not have even been shooting directly at us. It was kind of a warning. But, in the grand scheme of things, it was a bigger warning. I took it as a much bigger warning that there are so many things. We make choices every day. And I have these conversations with my children. They are not exposed to that type of life or that type of activity. But I share with them transparently what happened in my life because I want them to know that the choices that we make do have consequences. And at times we make bad choices and we are given opportunities to change. And it's at that moment that you really have to realize that I am here for something greater. I have a purpose. And that's part of the reason why it's my purpose to help others, especially young people, step into their purpose, recognize that they have one and that there's a greater plan for their lives. Because we are meant to do great things, Holly, not just exist in this life.
I know. Oh, I'm just sitting here. You know what's coming out of my mouth? I need you whenever, however, and whenever I can do anything to support you. I will be there with bells on my toes because I am passionate about empowering young people. But your mission in life in serving this world and serving these young people. I mean, look at this, Reg. Look at what you've done and how you have been completely blessed. And I mean, literally every step has been anointed. Every step of the way. I mean,
it has.
And there's even more to this that I'm sitting here going, and I had no idea about this, but then the other story, and I did. So your parents, take us back. They never knew. They still to this day never knew about that moment. Is that right? Okay.
Never knew. Most of my family never knew. Now there's a lot of people that know after they hear this on your show, but there are many people that don't know that about my life. And when you look at me and talk to me, you would never know that. But it's those little nuggets of things that we maybe are afraid to share or embarrassed to share. I'm very transparent. I will share things about my life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because people need to hear that. People need to. I was able to find role models and find positive information, and I could relate with people who showed me that they were like me. They had experienced not just all good. I was able to see more than just the iceberg on the top and the successes. But when they opened up and shared, and I could see what was underneath, that helped to spawn more in me. It helped to motivate me. It helped me to see that if that could happen for them, if they could go through that and still come out on the other side, so can I. And so I'm very much a proponent of sharing. I know not everyone is willing to do that or comfortable with doing that, but I'll get on a stage, I'll get in an interview, and I will share, because my prayer, Holly, truly is that if there is one person that hears my story, and through that, they are able to be inspired, they are able to push forward, they are able to find something that motivates them to move to their next level, move to the next day. Sometimes we just need to be able to get to the next day, right?
Absolutely.
And if I can inspire one person, Holly, through my stories, I will spend the rest of my life sharing.
And I'm just going to say amen, girlfriend. And you just literally, that is exactly why I started this show. Amen. When this mission was put on my heart, I'm like, there is amazing people around the world that are choosing to create and live extraordinary lives because they've overcome something. They've faced adversity. They're choosing to give back to this world. And I always say, if one person listening, Reg, that's my prayer. If one person listening to this show can see light in their darkness, can see hope and can see the goodness that can be, then that's why we did this. And I truly believe every person has a story and every story matters. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And when people like us are willing to pull back the layers of the onion, it took me years to realize, why would anybody want to hear my dark stories? I choose not to run around talking about it. But what because I always say, my mantra is, it's not woe is me, it's wow is me. What I've come to realize is that what people find is when we do get real and we share some of these dark stories of the past, it's not dwelling in it. It's giving people hope to go, yes, you've been there. You know my pain. You know where I'm going, because we feel so alone, like a black cloud is hanging over us. And we just wander through life thinking we're the only one out there dealing with some of this stuff. And so I thank you. I thank you for being real, for being genuine, for being authentic, and to following your calling and to live with such grace. And I know we're going to have to wrap this up, but there's still a story. There's still another story. So can you take us to, this is such a great transition, taking us to what you were about to share with me before we started the interview is there's another thing that you didn't know that was pivotal in your life that had to do with your parents. So can you tell us this story?
Yes. And I'll tell you quickly. When I was in my early 30s, my dad passed away, and it was sudden. And I found out by accident that I was adopted.
By
And I always,
accident?
by accident, I literally by accident, a neighbor showed up and asked for me and referenced me as the one that they adopted. And I overheard it.
Oh.
And that's how I found out.
How old were you?
I think I was 31 at the time.
Wait. Hold on. I know everybody out there that's going to be going, what? Hold on. If you're running and you're listening to this, because I have a lot of listeners that listen with their drive, they're probably like, pull the car over. Okay. You were 31.
Yes, I was 31.
All by accident, never knew you were adopted.
No, apparently my mother didn't want me to know. My father did want me to know, but honored my mother's wishes. And I have a very big family, Holly, and not one person in my family ever mentioned it, never said a word. And I was so loved and accepted, and it just never came up. And so when I found out, it was a huge shock, but I have to tell you and your audience, it was something that I was not bitter about. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I think at that point I was more curious, and it was like, oh my gosh, that explains a whole lot. No wonder I don't look like anyone. So, I was able to make it a happy moment, and I was very balanced and I was very loved. So I was okay with it. So that's part of the story. But here's the most amazing part of the story.
What?
In November of 2015, I decided to look for my birth family.
Yes.
And I found, and this was with the encouragement of my husband, actually, the prodding of my husband. And I found them. And the way I have to tell the story exactly how it goes. So I was born in Oregon, and it's one of few states, I think it's still the same way, where you can request your original birth certificate. And so I got my birth certificate, had my mother's name on it. And I looked up my mother's name on the internet, and lo and behold, I found my mother's name, and she had never changed her name. Well, I also found information about relatives of hers, and there was a relative who was about 1 year older than me, and it was a female. And I thought, that's odd. But there was this internal intuition, little voice speaking, saying, look for her. Don't look for your mother yet. So I went and I looked up, her name is Jeanette Mandy. I looked her up on the internet, and I promise you, her Facebook profile page came up, and it was like looking in a mirror.
Really?
I thought I had a twin sister. Yes.
Wow.
So I discovered my sister. I have a sister. I discovered her first on the internet, and then I found my mother, and I found her on Facebook, and I reached out to her, and the rest is literally history. We've connected.
Good.
And as part of my purpose, I say it's part of my purpose, but also my sister's purpose. My sister now works with me. And she's the COO of our nonprofit, and she has a nonprofit of her own, and she's doing amazing things. We both are working to support empowering 1 billion women and just doing a number of things in the community and across the globe. And I am so blessed. I now have a sister, and I have a half brother.
I love this story. I'm flipping out. And you know what I love? As soon as you told me, you started to go explore, I was thinking of that show that's on now that I love on Sunday nights called Long Lost Family. And because it's not forbidden, it's people want to. Right. And for many, many reasons, it's never at somebody's fault, typically when a child goes up for adoption, right? And and for some people, they've known their whole life, so they want to have a closure or have finality. Whereas for you had a beautiful life. 31 years old, by accident, you find this out, and now it's just another bouquet of blessings in your life.
Yes, it's just more love and more people in my life that impact me, and I get to impact. And I'm building relationship with my mother, and I love her. She was really nervous about meeting me because she didn't know how I was going to feel. And I told her, I love you because you could have made different choices. but you gave life to me. You allowed me to live. And, she kept my sister. So my sister's 13 months older than I am. And my mother raised her and gave me up for adoption. She just didn't think she could afford to take care of all of us. She was a single mother and she was very young. And I said, all I have is a lot of respect and love for you for giving birth to a life that God brought through you and had plans for, because there's so many babies that don't come into the world because different choices are made. So I love you as a human being for making that decision. And over time, I get to learn to know who you are and love you as a mother. And she understands that, she can never replace my mother who raised me,
right,
but she is my birth mom. And now I get to enjoy in the second half of my life another mother. And I just feel so blessed, Holly.
I am just, okay, so a couple things. I have to know, when you said that to her, how did she receive that? Was she just overwhelmed with joy and tears? And here you were thanking her for giving her life.
Yes, she was. She was overwhelmed, and she I think for her, it was very comforting, and it almost seemed as though it was an opportunity for her to exhale and to say, okay, I made the right choice. It was a hard choice, but I made the right choice. And she was raised well, and she did have parents and family who loved her. And so now she gets to see the result of that, and she gets to reap the rewards of that as she builds relationship with me. And I get to reap the rewards of, her very difficult decision, because we've talked about that. It was a difficult decision for her.
Yeah.
But it was the right decision.
And just think of the gift you gave her, the gift of no anger, no resentment, pure love, and thanking her for making that choice at such a young age. We can't even fathom what that choice is like, but you being the one to say, thank you. And what a gift you've given me. And my goodness, girlfriend, you have stories. Oh my goodness. Okay. We could just keep going. So here's two things I would love. So I always ask my guests, and this is just something I like to end with, and there's so many things in your life that have just made you such, when I say rich, you know what I mean? I mean rich in glory and grace for who you are and you're so grateful for this life. But if you were to give your 25-year-old self advice based on who you are today, my dear, and who she was at, maybe 22 or 25, what advice would you give her, knowing what you know today?
Don't try so hard to please others. Don't worry about being judged, because as a child of God and a believer in Christ, your identity has been set and sealed, and you have nothing but amazing things to grab hold of and to do in this world. And not everything is going to be great and easy. Actually, some of it is going to be very difficult, but know that as you go through those difficult times, they are shaping you. They are molding you. So hold on to the hope, hold on to the promise, because you will get on the other side of those things and you will be stronger for them. You will be a better person for them. And know that you have more than enough love to give to everyone. Whether they love you back or not, you have been made to give love to others and to exist from an altruistic place and space in life. And stay true to that, and don't worry about the rest.
I love it. I love it. I love you. I just wish we were sitting together, because I just want to throw my arms around you and hug you. And I'm clapping because I'm just in awe and feel so incredibly blessed to have you in my life. And thank you for being with us today. I know people are going to want to reach out. So very quickly, what's the best way for them to reach out to you, my dear? What's your email or website? Where would you like them to go?
Website is www.advancetheseed.org. Email address is rcorona, like the beer, at advancetheseed.org. And I would love to hear from people around the world. Just give me your thoughts and your ideas. And I love to share. Love to share.
And that's what you are truly embodying that. You share anything, you share from your heart. And thank you for being here. And to all the listeners, please, when you are going, I know you're being touched by this interview. So please leave a review on iTunes. Let us know what impacted you. I always love to hear from listeners that share. They send me emails, shoot me an email at holly@hollydowling.com. Tell me the stories that truly impact you. And I also want to give a gift to all my listeners who have been meaning to do this for a while, because I'm just blown away. I always want to thank people. I'm reading your reviews and I'm just thanking you. From every continent we have listeners. And I want you all to know that I have a book, and it's truly being and interviewing Reg today made me realize, what we all need. And I did this book as simply as my favorite inspirations. And it's a little mini book that's called Hollyisms, and it's your favorite inspirations with a tiny little place to journal so it can be tucked away. And on my website, go ahead and go to the website, click on special code, and put in the word celebrate in all big caps, and you get a discount for the book. Because everybody out there listening, we know that this show is designed and totally ordained for people's lives to be touched and to be given hope. And it is because of people like this beautiful woman, my new friend in my life, that we share stories of hope. Thank you, my dear. It's been a joy.
Thank you. It's been a blessing and a joy for me as well. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly, though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.